Welcome back to Got No Control Podcast. I'm your host, Ronick. And before I introduce my special guest today, make sure to head over to GotNoControl.com and check out our official merchandise, t-shirts, hoodies, and much more. GotNoControl.com. And with that being said, I want to give a special welcome to my guest today, Fish. How you doing today, brother?
Thank you, brother. I'm doing fine. Thank you for asking. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, brother, thank you for stopping by the studio today. I wanted to dive into, brother, if you could tell me, where are you originally from? What is home to Fish, and how did it look like growing up for Fish?
So I was born in Mexico City, but I came to LA. So we moved to the North Hollywood area when I was about one. Actually, I'm lying. We moved to Santa Monica first to my tia's house, but we didn't last very long. We moved to Van Nuys when I was like 2, and then we ended up in North Hollywood when I was like 4 or 5.
Okay.
And then I pretty much grew up in the North Hollywood area, but always going to school in Hollywood. And so I feel like I had a foot in both worlds. So both Hollywood, I went to Fairfax High, I went to Bancroft Junior High. And I feel like those both had a real deep graffiti history while I was there, before I got there and after I even left. So I feel really lucky. I was kind of like in the right place at the right time for as far as graffiti when it was happening. I got to Bancroft in 91.
Okay.
And then I graduated in high school in 97. And I think that was like early mid-90 years. We had like the hip-hop shop, and we had a lot of like shit was pretty advanced, but it was also really innocent. And so there was like a lot of freedom, and I feel really lucky that I came into the whole culture right around that time. And as far as like my home life, my folks were pretty cool. They worked all the time, so I was kind of a latchkey kid, you know?
Okay.
Grew up on TV. TV was my second mama.
La Ciudad de Mexico. Do you have any memories of being out there, or was it kind of like you were just born and straight back home over here?
I have just the slightest glimpses of like remembering my tia and a few things, but mostly my whole consciousness is in LA. But now that I'm an adult, I spend a lot of time in the city of Mexico.
La Ciudad de Mexico is where we get chilangos from, right?
So if I'm not mistaken, Capitalino is what people from the capital are called, and Chilangos are people that come from outside the city, that move to the city, are now like, oh, now I'm a city folk, and then they go back to their town like, oh, this fool's a fucking Chilango. He thinks he's fucking city folk, you know? So if I'm not mistaken, that's the actual proper verbiage.
I heard a rumor that when you're in la Ciudad de Mexico, you got to watch your wallet, because them fools be over there straight just whoop, whoop, whoop.
You know
but
what?
I don't know if it's true.
It's kind of true. So there's some neighborhoods that are kind of more touristy, where like the cops know all the pickpockets already, and they kind of run the show, so it's a little safer. But if you're on the metro or fucking certain parts of town where shit is dense, you won't even realize they took your watch, they took your wallet. You're like, what the fuck? You fucking get off the train. Like, what happened to my shit?
Yeah, where's my Rolex at? Long gone.
They're slick. They're slick. It's like a different kind of culture out there too.
They have a metro down there?
Yeah, it's one of the busiest in the whole world. They have the most ridership, and it's really affordable. If I'm not mistaken, it's only 10 pesos.
Oh, wow.
Which is like $50. And it just turned to that. It was 5 pesos not too long ago, and it's super affordable. Everybody rides it.
Is it kind of like what we have in LA? You know how we have the Blue Line and the Expo Line and stuff like that down here?
It's way more organized. So out there, the metro, all the stops are represented by symbols, because there was an illiterate population in Mexico, and they wanted everybody to have access and be able, I need to get the Chabacano or whatever.
I see
so
what you're
everything
saying.
has a picture. So it's really easy to ride on, and they're all connected. So you just pay it for one, and you could take the whole fucking line to anywhere you need to go across town. It's one of the most efficient and beautiful metros, I think.
And, you know, coming from La Ciudad de Mexico, growing up as a child at home, was it very cultural for you? Like, or was it kind of like you were just trying to figure it out while you were out here type thing and maneuver your way around Hollywood?
So it was a little bit of both. At home, I wasn't allowed to speak English, only Spanish. So there was twofold. One, my folks didn't really speak good English. They didn't want me to have the accent they had.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to talk to me how they talked. They didn't want me to hear that. They wanted me to sound like my peers at school.
Yeah.
And they didn't want me to forget how to speak Spanish. They wanted me to still be able to interact. So my home life felt very Mexican.
Okay.
But as soon as I walked out into the street, it was like a switch. And I was like, okay, now I'm American. Now I got to figure out how to get around here, you know?
And I feel that's interesting, because I come from the same background, right? The same story. But it's crazy, because now that I'm older, you go to Mexico and it's like, you're not Mexican enough. In the United States, you're not American enough. So it's like, bro, where do I fit in at?
That resonates with me a lot. That basically was that I went through junior high, I think, a lot, going through that. I wasn't Mexican enough for any of the Mexican kids because I was a little lighter in skin tone, you know? So they're like, oh, you're not really Mexican. But then I definitely didn't fit in with the white people because culturally I was not like them either. So it freed me to kind of make my own cultural identity. And I think like graffiti and skateboarding and rave culture and all that helped me kind of shape myself into a person that isn't really defined or limited to like, oh, I have to act this way or talk this way because I'm brown or because I live in this neighborhood or whatever. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. I could comprehend that 100%. I can relate. At what age, brother, do you kind of like start hopping outside? Because you go from being a kid to like now I'm starting to realize my surroundings, what's out here. I start making some friends. So at what age does that step kind of like begin for you?
So I think it was really innocent for me, but I think it was like the third grade. It's just because my mom knew the neighborhood kids and we all like had bikes and skateboards, and she just knew like, all right, I was outside with the neighborhood kids. They're all skateboarding, they're all biking, they're cool, they're safe.
Yeah.
And it was before cell phones, before even beepers and everything. So we were outside. Like we'd come out and then we wouldn't come back until it was dark. So we kind of had like freedom and shit, different that I think that kids don't have now. Like now kids don't play outside, you know what I mean? They don't know all the neighbor kids. When we were kids, it was just like everybody knew each other. You knew everybody in the neighborhood.
Does that bring joy to your soul? Because for me, it does, bro. Because I remember going outside as a kid, we're breaking windows, playing with the soccer ball, so much crazy stuff. And it brings me joy reminiscing on those adventures with my friends now that I'm older. Do you kind of have that same joy?
I love those memories, man. They shape me. It's funny because we'd call it, instead of like, let's go out and play, we'd say, let's go out and cause trouble.
Yeah.
And you're talking about like breaking windows, and we do that shit. We fucking break car windows and steal stereos. And it was dumb shit sometimes. Like, we got into doing delinquent shit really young. Yeah. I was kind of lucky. It was that we were so naive, we didn't realize what we were doing.
Yeah.
And we managed to stay out of trouble for the most part, most of us, as far as when we were doing dumb shit like that.
Let me ask you this, brother. At what point in life do you go from being just a child, right, where like you're just going outside and playing with the neighborhood friends, to where you kind of like start opening up your creativity and imagination to start becoming creative in your own personal way?
So I had a bit of influence from my uncle. My uncle was an artist and a painter, and so was my grandma.
Oh, wow.
And so I'd see their work around the house because they didn't live nearby, but my dad would hang their shit around the crib. And I think that like opened me to the idea like, oh, I could do art too. Like my dad was an athlete, he was a jock, and he really kind of pushed me to go in that direction, but it didn't really call me like it called him. And when he saw that I was interested in the art shit, he's like, oh, well, you know what, that's part of the family tradition too. So he was kind of cool with me kind of going that way.
Yeah.
And so I got influenced. I started seeing it as a really young kid, but I think I got interested in drawing probably when I was in like the second grade.
Okay.
And
would you be able to share watching, you say, your grandma?
Yeah.
And your aunt, your uncle, or
my uncle? Yeah, my dad's brother.
Can you kind of tell me a little bit about what was their media of choice and what were they kind of like paint, right? Like, was it oil, acrylic?
Yeah. So my grandma's work was oil paintings, and it was portraits of people and like real situations, like flower pots, kind of more traditional classic art.
Yeah.
And then my uncle lived in New York, and he painted and he drew. Like he came and stayed with us for a few months, and the whole time he was actually buying spray paint and making paintings with spray paint. And I was like probably 6-7 years old. I had never seen anybody make art. To me, in my head, spray paint wasn't for art. And so he was actually one of the first people I seen doing that. But he was actually mainly a sculptor. He taught sculpture in New York at one of the universities, and he was actually doing fairly well. But unfortunately, the scene he was in, he caught AIDS in the 80s, and he died probably when I was still maybe a 7th or 8th grader. So
May he rest in peace.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you still have some of their paintings? Like your
man.
personal belongings?
So when my tia died, she used to live in San Francisco. She had a lot of my uncle's work and my grandma's work, and we got to go to her house, and I took all my family's work. And yeah, it's in storage with some of my own paintings, but I fortunately I was able to salvage a bunch of their work.
How is that feeling, brother? Now that you're older, right? You're an adult now, and you kind of like look at those paintings, because I'm sure you have them, right?
Yeah.
And just looking at those paintings, does that help your creativity now? Like, does it help you get creative? Does it spark any passion in you?
So actually, I have 3 of the masks. My uncle was a sculptor, but he also make these very modern masks that were inspired, I think, by Picasso a little bit in his African period and stuff. Okay. And definitely, I don't do a lot of figurative work, but his style, the way he was making them, his modernistic style and his use of colors, still definitely I see like it reflected in my own work. I'm like, oh, that's probably like I'll see my shit and then I'll see his shit. I'll be like, man, I think I'm biting my uncle. You know what I mean? So it's definitely like a subconsciously been an influence my whole life.
And 2024, can you kind of resemble some of that of their style and your work today?
Yeah, a little bit, a
Yeah.
little bit. Well, at least my uncle shit, because he was doing really modern and abstract kind of shit, and my fine art work leans toward like abstract and more modern looking shit. So definitely, I think they were, again, subconscious. I don't think I realized how much they had influenced me, but now when I reflect on my work and I look at their shit, I definitely see a direct connection.
That's amazing, brother. Um, so you're young, right? You're a young kid. You're watching your your grandma and your uncle painting, and then you pick up and you start painting. But at what point does the street culture come into your life? Like when you start noticing graffiti, like, oh damn, I know this style of art, but what is
Yeah.
that over there?
So I noticed graffiti when I was with my mom. We were in front of the HK Market on Western,
Yeah.
and to this day, I'm not exactly who it was, but I think one of the gentlemen was from K2S,
Okay.
and they had a Griffin type pen, so it was like a mop, and I saw them dipping their shit and then tagging with the little fucking the ball, and I didn't
Yeah.
understand. I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? And I looked at them, and I didn't quite like I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing some shit, and they're like looked around and just bounced. And I was like, what the fuck? We were at the bus stop waiting for the Western bus,
Yeah.
and so that was the first time I noticed it. And I think after that, I started noticing on the freeway. I started seeing like, oh look, Decline. Oh look, Euler. Oh look at these names everywhere. You know, like these words, they mean some shit.
Yeah.
You know, they're everywhere. Like the fucking fools like this are everywhere. And so probably like third, fourth grade was the first time I noticed it. And then the first time I think it came to my life, I had a really good friend that was my neighbor, Pat. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
He was 2 years older than me, 1 grade older than me, but he went to school on the valley side of shit. So he was getting into everything just a little before me, and he started hanging out with some writers. And one day he came home, he's like, yo, we got some paint. Let's go paint in the river right here because we're not too far from the LA River. And I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck it, let's go. And we were just doing goofy ass shit. Like he was writing Odie, and he was drawing like a little character from like Garfield and shit. You know what I mean?
What
And
year
I-
you say this was?
What year?
Yeah.
I think that was like 88 or 89. I mean, we
Okay.
were total toys. I still didn't understand what like graffiti was. You know,
Yeah.
I noticed the names. Like I'd seen Sleaze. I'd seen certain dudes up, but like
Yeah.
I didn't really understand like what crews were, wild style, like none of that shit. It was just really primitive, just kids scribbling. Like, oh, I seen other writing. Now I'm trying to write on shit.
You know, coming from such a cultural family, right? Because for me, my family looked at graffiti like it was the worst thing you could be doing. Like, si te veo haciendo esto, ta 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 ta, right? Did you receive that from your family?
So I got really lucky. I got a issue of Can Control magazine
Okay.
when I was a 7th grader.
Okay.
And I brought it home to my mom, and I sat her down, and I'm like, look at this art. This is what the kids are doing right now. This is some modern shit. This is like the new shit.
Yeah.
And my mom didn't really know, but she saw the gang shit, and I explained to her this art is the alternative to all this violence and shit that we're seeing. So if I'm allowed to do this type of shit, I probably won't get shot and jumped and beat up because it's kind of like a separate world. Even though it was interrelated and overlapping, I convinced my mom that it was like an alternative to the gang culture.
Okay.
And so she was like, all right, if this keeps you out of that shit, like you can do that, but don't get in fucking trouble. So
Gotcha.
kind of the rule was like, you can do it as long as I don't have to hear about it, as long as the cops don't get
I
caught.
see what you're
You
saying.
know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
How impactful was that gang culture for you? Like, how impactful was it around your surroundings?
So unfortunately, when I really got into graffiti is when Fox Undercover really started pushing the idea of gang tag banging and gangs being related so much with graffiti. And
Yeah.
so that caught on as a trend a lot more than it was, I think, before they pushed it. And so I had to definitely deal with a lot of bullshit violence, getting jumped, crews from other schools coming to like fight with fools from our school and like not missing them, but then like, oh, well, we're going to jump you instead kind of shit.
Oh, wow.
So unfortunately, there was some violent years in my graffiti time that we had to just basically you get on the bus and it's almost like, fuck, I hope there's not too many riders because somebody's going to want to fight.
Yeah.
You know, and then you go to the back and it's like, what's up? Who are you? Who are you? And then somebody who either doesn't know you or like, oh, fuck your homie. And then it's like, all right, you got to fucking either get off the bus and fight or fight on the bus. So fortunately, those years didn't last too long. I feel like graffiti kind of had a split. The fools that were banging kind of got out of the crews and just went straight into like just being in the local hood because a lot of the hoods assimilated a lot of the crews.
Okay.
A lot of where I'm from, my part of town, like a lot of the crews ended up just turning into the local gang.
Okay, I see
You
what
know
you're
what I
saying.
mean? So and then the graffiti writers that were doing more of the art shit were like kind of free again. They were kind of forgotten by the violence and were able to like develop the art side of things again.
It must have really been an emotional situation, though, right? Because you're here, a young kid, you know, got started writing with your friend. Then you get yourself on a copy of Can Control magazine. Then you're admiring the work, but then in real life, you gotta kind of like, if you don't want to fight, you're gonna have to fight, right? You're gonna have to throw some blows because it's either go down as a champ or be known for that coward, right?
Right.
And obviously, you don't want to be the coward because everything that comes with it, people will not stop talking about it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's like it's very emotional just going through that, right? Like loving something so much that you have to kind of like maneuver your way around all these situations, you know. Um,
Absolutely. It was very discouraging
yeah.
as far as like trying to be so dedicated because so many of the people that even the people that I started with right off were like, oh, you know what, we're going to get into the gang instead. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
my immediate circle, a lot of the homies that were like down and like started writing with me kind of branched off real quick. And then it was a little lonely because I didn't ever have a mentor or any guidance or older crewmates to really kind of show me the way or pass history down or pass styles down. So I kind of had to find my own way. And then you're right, man. I was never like a violent person, but
Yeah.
having to deal with that, having to interact with it, having to survive it, it was a challenge. It was discouraging. It didn't make you want to paint. You know, you don't want to go out there because you're gonna have to meet other writers at the yard, and it could be an old guy that just wants to take your paint.
You know, brother, and I want to thank you for sharing that because I like to inform others. I like now graffiti is, in a way, I could say loved, right? People enjoy it, people admire it, they're okay with it, but they don't know what people like yourself had to go through just to be able to pick up a can and spray a wall, right?
Absolutely, and I think it's not only like so. I feel like it's been accepted culturally in a whole different way, and I
Yeah.
think it was kind of after Banksy came out with that movie, that Exit Through the Gift Shop. Before then, I would always, I'd interact with people like college professors or adults, like my friends' parents, and they'd be like, "So what do you do?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I'm a painter." And then I would never tell them I paint graffiti. Oh, what kind of art do you do? Oh, I do abstract paintings, you know.
Yeah.
And I'd never tell anybody like I do anything graffiti related or anything like that. But now I feel more comfortable saying, "Oh, I'm a muralist," and if that, what kind of murals? Oh, graffiti style, and people are like, "Oh, love that." Well, like Banksy, right? And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, like Banksy," you know, because that's how they understand it. But it's not like you're a fucking criminal, drug dealer, dirtbag anymore. Now you're like, oh, you're this creative person. You're
Yeah.
contributing to this culture. So it's the attitude has changed in such a weird way. I guess I'm happy because I don't have to be fearful all the time of how I'm going to be judged by my peers and whatnot. But it's weird. You know, I'd rather people be nice, but
Okay.
unfortunately, there was definitely like a generational a missing of passing down the culture in that, where
Yeah.
where the young kids don't have enough respect or reverence for the history, for what happened before them. They don't have enough knowledge, and they act in ways that in my age, in my era, would have definitely got you beaten up and would have discouraged you from continuing being a graffiti writer. I think although ass beatings aren't necessary, every once in a while it wouldn't be bad for some people to hand some down to the young generation just to teach them, like, look, stay in your lane, respect the older fools, don't do your crappy shit on top of
Yeah.
shit. You know what I mean? It is what it is, though.
You know, in my personal opinion, I feel like that's important, right? Like, if you're an individual that devoted all these years to paint, right? And then you get to a certain age, whether it be 40, 50, 60. I mean, a younger kid don't gotta love you, but just show some respect, bro, because people like him were made you be able to do what you're doing today. You know what I mean? They opened up those doors before you were even around.
I think that's really important to know the history, at least a few, like a generation or two deep, at least in your area, and to respect what happened before you. Yeah, because everybody did pave the way. I definitely, as a younger writer, like I said, I didn't have mentors, but I went out of my way to try to study, to ask older writers about their crew history, to
Yeah.
ask, you know, yo, who came before this? Who was All City before this? You know, to have a more complete understanding of what happened before me and where my place is and within this timeline, because it didn't just spontaneously go like now it's graffiti and it's exploded. It has a history, it has a trajectory, and there are important key players that brought us to this evolution step. And I think it's important, at least for me,
Yeah.
to know who they are and to respect them for who they are, you know.
100%, brother. I wanted to take a small rewind. So, you know, the gang culture in LA in the early, you could say like early 80s, mid 80s was very impactful, right? Maybe even before that. I might be wrong. Um, I do know that every section of LA had their own style when it came to territorial graffiti, which to Chicanos is known as placazos. Um, Even though graffiti brought so much, I mean, not graffiti, sorry. Even though gang culture brought so much negativity, that style of territorial graffiti have any impact in you as far as creativity?
Absolutely. You know what? I think it's a shame that the art of gang calligraphy has been kind of lost now. You go
Yeah.
through some of these hoods, and they just fucking toys. They're hitting up their hood, and when I feel like a disrespectful way, like
Yeah.
before, the gangsters would honor their hood, and they would make that shit look beautiful. They would make these beautiful, large placazos. Absolutely, the style and the impact, the size, the neatness of the fucking writing, the rows, how
Yeah.
everything was spaced. I think there are cats now that are heavily influenced by that, and they had roots in that culture as well. Like dudes like Big Sleeps and like like some of the K2S guys that
Yeah.
really their style is very much rooted in that history, and I think they do a great job of honoring that. And I think it's a shame that more gangsters don't do that, because that absolutely had a stylistic influence on my whole aesthetic and the way I view graffiti. Absolutely, I think for the most part,
Yeah.
the gang culture had a lot of influence on all of the West Coast, whether the writers realize it or not. A lot
Yeah.
of our shapes and a lot of our structures are directly come from that.
Gotcha. At what point in your life do you tell yourself, like, okay, I like this graffiti movement, right? But at what point do you say, you know what, I'm coming up with a serious name, and now I'm really gonna go all in, and I'm gonna really build a style and put myself out there and go ham.
So I think for me the transition happened. So like I said, the during the gang heavy times,
Yeah.
I had to move a little bit away from the graffiti.
Yeah.
And so I moved into the rave culture, and I became a DJ and a promoter, and I started doing that. But at the same time, I feel like toward the end of the 90s, graffiti, and I feel really lucky because the high school I went to,
Yeah.
I got to go to high school with really influential writers: Retina, Air, Kyle, J Rock, the homie Doobie. There's so many dudes that came from that were my grade or a grade younger than me, or 2 grades younger than me even, but that was just so influential stylistically that by the time I was like, mid high school and getting out of high school, we had so many dope writers that I was being reinvigorated and really focusing and bringing me back to the graffiti. But at the same time, I was already doing raves, and I had the same graffiti name. And I think it was like around 99 or 2000 that I decided, you know what? I love the rave shit, but I'm going to go all in on graffiti. And that's when I changed my name to Fish.
Okay.
And just went all in and fucking really, at first I didn't even tell people I changed my name. And I even changed my style. I dumbed it down and I kind of simplified it because I kind of wanted to start over. And I kind of was a challenge to myself. Like, if I'm really about this, I could start from scratch. I could start from anew
Yeah.
and make a whole new reputation and make name for myself and establish myself. And apparently it worked.
Does fish come from like a thought or just scribbling letters around, or where does that name come from?
So I wanted, definitely letter shape had to do with it. So I was practicing letters I was best at. I really like S's. I really like E's. I thought you could flip them a lot. I didn't love an H and the I because they were very simple letters. So I was looking for words that fit. And I was just making up spelling for words and just practicing. And then I wrote the word fish in a really kind of like almost Greek looking letters.
Yeah.
And I really liked it. And I wrote it a few other ways. I'm like, fuck, that works. But the E at the end would really matter for me. And I like that. I was also looking for a name that was kind of universal in a way. And I think the fish symbol in a lot of different cultures represents a lot of shit. And I like kind of like almost the esoteric value of the name. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
it was both a stylistic, like I like these letters, and I like how this name could be interpreted in a lot of ways.
Dope. You know, brother, hip hop in the early stages of what we know as West Coast graffiti, right, was very influential, right? Like hip hop was very influential, b-boying, even popping. Was hip hop very influential for you?
So yes, but not so much on my graffiti. So
Okay.
I probably got. I was definitely in elementary when I first heard hip hop, and my first few tapes were NWA, Two Live Crew, and the Beastie Boys.
Okay.
So it was very early hip hop. I had heard of Run DMC, but I wasn't feeling them so much. But when I connected like NWA's gangster shit was like, damn, it was tough as fuck. I'd never heard anything like that. Same too. Two Live Crew was super vulgar, right? And
Yeah.
Too Short too. We heard Too Short. I got a Too Short tape. I was like, damn, like this is crazy. So it broadened my musical influence and the way I looked at music and the way I consume music, but not so much the aesthetic. Like I know a lot of
Okay.
people have like a more traditional, like the New York hip hop that influenced a lot of their style because it goes with it almost. The sound and the look kind of goes together. The type of hip hop I was listening to, I don't think had that b-boy culture necessarily
Okay.
that was connected to it. I
Yeah.
loved it and resonated with me. And obviously, you know, Tribe Called Quest later, De La Soul, all that hip hop,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
much it. I love that. It was part of my upbringing. I grew up on heavy doses of hip hop, but again, I don't think it influenced my visual style so much. You know, I think visually I was more influenced by like skate and surf culture and a little bit by punk rock and the graffiti I saw around LA more, which
Yeah.
was crews like A-Dub, UTI, West Coast Artists, TGO, Hex, like you were
Okay.
mentioning earlier. Like, you know, I went to Fairfax High, and right before Fairfax High, he opened the hip hop shop right across the street. It was literally across the street from my high school.
Oh, okay.
And when I was in junior high, we would ditch to go hang out at his shop on the rooftop to meet with other writers. It was like the graffiti mecca. Everybody,
Okay.
so dudes would be ditching from Southgate or from the West Side, from Venice High. All the writers would congregate almost every day. It was like the mecca for graffiti writers. That's where I met Skate. I think I met Swan there for the first time. I met a lot of dudes that were early influential cats just hanging out there. You know what I mean? And I think that and there was hip hop there, and there was
Okay.
b-boy culture, and I think that was the first time it was Hex's shop where hip hop influenced my style more. Seeing the direct influence of like the breaking there, the styles. That guy Mark Ski used to work there, and he
Okay.
used to wear those big Gazelle glasses. He looked like an old school New
Yeah.
York b-boy, you know. And that was like, oh shit, this aesthetic. Yeah, like Hex's Fat Cat brand, and actually a lot of brands at the time were starting to use a real traditional hip hop aesthetic, and they were definitely influenced my graffiti style at that time.
You know, but for those that didn't get a chance to witness a hip hop shop like myself, I think it was before my time. Um, can you take me into how it was walking in there, like the establishment? Like, what would you go in there and like witness type thing? I know you said b-boys,
Yeah.
and you said Marksy and other
Mhm.
writers,
Sure, Ace.
but as far as like merchandise, the walls, like what was in there, like how was the feeling?
Yeah, it was impactful actually because it was just it was on Genesee, just off of Melrose. So
Yeah.
as you walk from Melrose up that block, every window before you got to it had like a Hall of Fame of scribes. And it was scribes like almost floor to ceiling, and they had been tagged over with spray paint and they'd been buffed out.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've witnessed that, but it like makes the scribe pop
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
So there's all this colorful ass scribes, silver, fucking every fucking color.
Yeah.
So you're already like, whoa, man, every graffiti writer's been here. So even before you go in, you see this like Hall of Fame of every graffiti, every crew. You're like, wow, this is an important place. Everybody comes here.
Yeah.
You know, so that's your impression before you show up. When you walk in, there's definitely the linoleum on the floor. They got the display case with all the fat caps. They got some fat laces on the Adidas right in the display case. And the space isn't so much a shop. There's like maybe like one or two racks of T-shirts.
Yeah.
But it's not like a shop like you think you go into a shop now and it's full of shit to look at, you know?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was kind of limited. It was like the fucking, the display case over here, the T-shirts back here, and the rest was an open floor because they had the breakdancing and the open mics and all this shit.
Yeah.
That was more of almost like a community space. There was graffiti definitely on over the walls, on over everything. And Hex always painted the front. So the whole front always had a different Hex piece. He'd rotate it every few months. And then, you know, CBS was kind of running all the alleys and shit back then. So it was just outside. It was like a gallery of really high level graffiti. Probably some of the best graffiti in LA at the time, all concentrated basically right around that shop.
I think it's amazing though how you guys were all able to like contribute to the space, but then at the same time respect each other, right? Because they could have been like, "Hey, get out of here! I don't want you here," type thing, but it wasn't like that.
It was very open. I think Hex did a really good job of making everybody feel welcome, and because of that, it became kind of a sacred space, and people. You know, I maybe saw like one or two fights or one or two people get chased away from there, but overall, people really came as open-minded. People came to link with other people. They came with a more positive attitude. The space really garnered a real positive vibe, I think.
Gotcha. If you had to say a name, maybe let's say 5 names or 3 names of writers that really influence you, who would that be?
I mean, so in junior high, I think Wes from JOR
Okay.
had the most beautiful hand style. He's still around. I was friends with his brother for a few years. I got to work with him. He was one of my first major influences because he crushed the whole area right around my junior high. I think he graduated right before me.
Okay.
And he just had the best fucking tags. And to me, tags are the foundation and the best part of graffiti. They're not as respected and revered as like the characters and the beautiful walls, but just tagging with a nice dripper or a mean streak on the surface, the feeling you get is just like, for me, it's my favorite part of it, you know? So he was a big influence. Also, Mir from CBS or West Coast. He had gone to my junior high right before, and he was also painting on Melrose a lot. And his style at the time was just so dynamic and just so colorful, and it, to me, really encompassed that West Coast feeling. And then, who else was a big influence at the time? Hex. Hex had just such advanced style. It was very kind of traditional in b-boy.
Yeah.
But the way he put it together was just so aesthetically pleasing. It was so beautiful that it definitely changed the way I look at it. And actually, he brought a writer from, I believe, Switzerland, some crew called TWS, who wrote Dare. I believe he's passed away. Dare, rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
I probably still use some of his letter shapes today in my graffiti. So because of Hex, I was exposed to Dare, which flipped graffiti in a different style. I had never seen the European style, and I really liked it, and I definitely borrowed his styles for years afterward.
Did you have a chance to make it to the Belmont?
Oh, yeah. Fortunately, yeah. I painted there a few times. I got to be part of some productions. I was part of the last production before they fenced it off. People kept jumping in and spraying on it, but I got to paint there a few times, and with really cool riders. Fortunately, a lot of people have had really terrible situations there with the local gangs that come jack people and all that. Overall, I was able to avoid most of the problems there and get in, do my thing, get out without any issues.
That last production that you said you were part of, can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I knew, I had heard that they were going to close Belmont, and I didn't really know much about it, but I believe it was Dame from MSK that hollered at us at the time. He had Jer staying at his house, Jer from KOG and LTS, the main head or one of the main heads of RTDK, which is a Denver crew.
Yeah. And
he's like, yo, I got these dope-ass riders over here. Let's fucking all go out there and paint the last production. So it was... Retina showed up, but he didn't paint. Revoke was on the wall. Jer, RB, Dame, Arrow from San Diego.
Okay.
So
there's a lot of you guys.
Yeah, it was at least like 10 of us painting that day. I don't remember who else was there, but it was a pretty good lineup. It was pretty good pieces. Yeah. I was really glad and grateful they called me to do that day.
Brother, you're coming from an era where it's not like today where you can just hop on the internet or walk to your local graffiti shop and get some utensils. What was I looking for, like you on your come up, as far as grabbing your tool of choice?
So we had a really nice art store in my neighborhood.
Okay.
I think it was called World Supply, if I'm not mistaken. They had unis, and I discovered that at a really young age. And so I would play down. They were kind of right by the register, but I would always find that little moment to just kind of be like, oh, like what's that? Or just like as soon as the dude wasn't looking, do the quick maneuver. And I was always kind of afraid. That was kind of where I learned to rack. But also that's where I got confident racking, because I realized if you just play dumb and you kind of just act like you're not doing, if you come in looking all fucking suspicious and shady and scared, you're gonna get followed around the store. But if you come in looking like, what's up, everybody, fucking,
how's your day going?
Yeah, like, hey guy, whatever, then you could just grab it and keep talking to him, just fucking put it in your pocket and all right, thanks a lot, I'm out of here. So uni markers were definitely my favorite at the time. When I learned how to rack from big corporate stores also, I feel like I was really lucky. I learned a few of the techniques that people were using at the time. I mean, obviously you could walk out, push a car, right? But there's things that are more slick. There's ways, I don't want to put anybody's systems on blast, but there's ways to operate, and that really changed things up for me, because before it was really try to scrap my money, try to steal 1 or 2 cans at a time. But when I figured out how to get 20, 30, 40, 50 cans at a time, then that's when I think my graffiti career really blossomed. That's when I was able to just go out as much as I could. I was only limited by my time versus my supply.
How do you reflect on that though, brother? Because now you could literally just Google black spray paint and or nozzles to spray graffiti. For those who don't know, that are called caps. Nozzles for graffiti and pew. Or you just look it up and there's a graffiti shop right around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, it's convenient when I need stuff, so that part's nice.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword. I mean, right now there's so much graffiti everywhere. It's so saturated that I feel the overall quality has dropped.
Yeah.
And I believe it's so accessible, and the generations are so quickly turning over that there's not enough of the passing down of the torch, the passing down of the skill level, and so it creates an environment where you just like you have almost too many people doing it, and that's almost discouraging it sometimes because you're like, fuck, man, I'm gonna go do something nice, and like in a week, some toy's gonna come cat me because
I see what you're
there's
saying.
that disconnect, you know. At the same time, though, it makes room for the art side of shit
Yeah.
to really evolve because the writers are going to keep racking. They you know they're going to figure out a way to get their supplies, right? But people that want to do some more advanced shit with the tools becoming more refined and more accessible, it's going to make better graffiti murals, graffiti art in the end, I think. You know, I'm not mad. I feel lucky that I had to learn it on my own. I still make my own
Yeah.
markers. I still make my own ink mixes. I still do that shit because I love to do it. I know
Yeah.
it's more probably convenient, easier, maybe even cheaper to go buy this shit.
Yeah.
But you don't get the same feeling. You know?
You know, I think what you just mentioned is kind of like, in my opinion, something more significant, right? Like if you're an up and coming kid, right, and then you're getting into graffiti, and like, damn, I can't get that till the elder hands it to me. Like, look, bro, this is a uni marker, boom, right?
Sure.
So then you'll value it more. But to each his own when it comes to the opinion, you know, because you know it is what it is. I wanted to dive into, brother. You know, back then you guys had yards where you would go and see these mass productions, right? Like full-on color burners with backdrops and, you know, all the good details and cartoons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And possibly meet the guy there while he's painting, right?
Sure.
How important was that for you to have those yards? Because today it feels like they're not accessible to that quality.
Yeah, man, you're right. That's actually where I did end up meeting a lot of my peers and writers. And, you know, that's kind of, but by not having a mentor, that's kind of where I saw how to do a lot of shit. Like,
Yeah.
you kind of just sit back and be quiet and observe. And I was able to like, oh shit, he's holding the can sideways? That's how he's shading like that,
Yeah.
you know? So those are super crucial moments. And then they take a break and you're like, hey, what's up, man? I love what you're doing. And, you know, I think humility goes a long way. And I think not only that, but like game recognizing game, like older writers saying to me like, oh, you know what? I saw you on this one tag on this one spot. Like it gives you kind of like that self-esteem boost where it's like, fuck, all right, people saw, they
Yeah.
noticed, like I might still not be that important or nothing, but
But you're
like,
getting credibility.
but hey, people are noticing. I'm gonna keep it up, you
Yeah.
know. And so I'm grateful for having those interactions with some older writers. Were cool and were like, yo, man, like keep it up. I seen you, like you're getting better. You know what I mean?
Because it feels like now, bro, if you go to a yard, no disrespect to nobody out there, but it's not what it used to be, right? Where back then you would go see this full-on color, crazy, you know, flowing, bending, connecting letters, kind of like they're talking to you,
Yeah.
right? And now it doesn't seem like people are trying to put that much effort into it.
So I think because of maybe legal walls,
Okay.
yards have. Before the best writers would go to the yards,
Yeah.
and they would, like you said, flex and really display their skill level because there were so many places I couldn't get illegal. No one's gonna pay me to fucking do some dope shit on their fucking business.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the writers graduated to a level where they're getting access to paint better walls. Like shit, somebody's gonna pay for a scaffold. We're gonna paint this whole building. We're gonna do this whole
Okay.
business. That a lot of the people with a higher caliber don't go to the yards as much. And the yards have become a place for the younger writers to learn before maybe they hit the streets.
I see what
You
you're
know,
saying.
so I think the importance of the yard has changed and the usage of the yard has changed. Because before, younger writers, you know, you might get beat up at the yard. You might get
Yeah.
fucking your paint jacked. You might show up all stoked, like, I'm going to do my first piece today. And an older writer will be like, no, you're not, motherfucker.
Yeah,
You know what I
give me
mean?
that
And,
shit, yeah.
and now an older writer will be like, oh, young toy, all right, just don't cap over any dope shit. All right,
go-
go paint over there.
Yeah, little corner after that's you.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, I like that people are nicer. I didn't like the violence. I don't think that graffiti needs the gang edge.
Yeah.
But I do feel like young kids need, like, you know, like when a mom kind of like bites a little puppy, like to teach them a little bit. I think there needs to be a little bit more of that.
Yeah, for me, in my personal opinion, bro, I feel like the gang edge should drift away from the graffiti culture. It's okay to be thug driven, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Be thug driven to where like, all right, we have this mentality, but I feel like some people might just go a little too deep into the other realm, you know what I mean?
I agree. You know, it's really interesting because I think, like, without putting anybody on blast, I think every single writer I know that started in the 80s was also from a gang.
Okay.
But they were very able to maneuver, like, separate the gang
Yeah.
and the graffiti life. And they kept it, like, a lot of these fools are still from the hood.
Yeah.
But they never represent that shit with the graffiti culture. They completely, it's like a sacred thing. It's like graffiti's its own fucking shit. My hood shit, that's my hood shit. And I think it's really lame. I think it's mostly dudes with very little skill
Yeah.
that try to bring the hood shit into graffiti because it's like, well, I'm a toy, but I can be harder than these fools.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I definitely think it should be separate. I don't think there needs to be that rough edge. I know some crews kind of like their reputation is like, oh, how tough they are and how much they have guns and all that. But I don't think they get the respect that they think they have. I think people mostly look at them like, oh, they're bullies, but like nobody likes them.
Yeah, for me personally, bro, if I was a big crew, I would want to be known for being a style king.
Sure.
Rather than, oh, that's that bully, or get away from him.
I agree completely, man.
Yeah.
I think that like, so style, but style only takes you so far. Like if you only do style on legal walls, then I don't think I might respect you as much as a guy that maybe has a level or two less of style, but goes out and really gets the spots and goes out there and puts himself out there. So I think there has to be a balance between style and wanting to be active and putting it out. Because in the end of the day, like aerosol murals are beautiful, but they're not really graffiti. Graffiti is the act of going out and painting, putting your mark on a surface where nobody gave you permission.
Yeah.
You know? And I think some writers, when they get to a certain skill level, forget the graffiti edge, the illegal edge. And I think that's when it kind of loses its power. You know, if you're just doing a bunch of jobs for corporations, then it's like, that's cool. But
do you think it's fair to say that some established writers kind of get lost in that? Like, you come from full-on graffiti writer, right? To where, like, now I got to draw a Mickey Mouse over here or this or that over here to get accepted by the general public. And then you get accepted, but then you still can't paint a full-on burner because they're going to be like, hey, what is that? I don't want this.
I mean, I respect that everyone's got to eat.
Yeah.
And if you were able to manage to turn your art into the way to pay your rent and to put food on the table, I'm not hating on that. You know what I mean? I still respect that, like, you're hustling.
Okay.
You know, hustle's a hustle. That being said, like, I definitely, like, for example, I thought about getting into graphic design a long, long time ago. And then I thought, man, there's money, I could do this, but do I want to dedicate my creative output into pleasing other people and doing what they want? Or do, you know, my art might not make the most money. I might have not be the most successful graffiti career, but I'm doing shit that I believe in, shit that like really represents me. And even if it's not the most lucrative right now, I feel happier doing that, following my heart and representing my shit.
Okay.
You know, but I respect motherfuckers that got to eat. I respect motherfuckers that are able to turn, like, their skill level into a way to, you know, put food on the table.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that. Shout out to all those guys, man. There's nothing but respect. I've definitely seen them doing amazing things, and I just watch them, and man, that's a beautiful thing for the culture, you know?
Yeah, that's definitely not an easy feat. And I guess I have the most respect for the guys that are still able to manage, like, they'll do jobs, they'll do walls, and then they still sneak out and you still see like a train or a billboard or something, like when they still keep like at least a toe in the graffiti world. That's the guys I think that are doing it right. For me, I don't know. Well, you know, and it really, my opinion is just an opinion. Like, you don't need my approval to be a very successful artist or graffiti writer. It's just my particular way of viewing how I approach things.
Yeah, everybody has their own perspective, and it's great to share that so everybody could just, you know, kind of understand. Like, oh, he thinks like that. Maybe I don't think like that. But at the end of the day, we're all fam because everybody's in the same realm, you know?
Yeah, I feel that.
I wanted to get into, did you ever get into a crew? Like, was that something that you took part in?
Yeah, man. So, like I was mentioning, in high school is when I started meeting other writers that were actually doing more of the art side of things. And J-Rock and Air, I knew J-Rock from junior high. So he started, when he got to my school, he was close friends with my homie Noe. And I don't want to put either of them on blast because I don't know if they still want to be affiliated with the crews they were from at the time. But he's like, yo, I got a homie from the crew who's going to be coming to the school. Yeah. So he's going to be part of the circle. Literally, like a week later, he was just part of the circle, you know, and it was J-Rock. I was a 9th grader. He was a 7th grader. And he's like, yo, we're going to start this new crew. Mm-hmm. And I think it was just like a new idea, you know. It was kind of like dudes from a few schools, you know, and I was part of that crew, and that was UCLA. Okay. And so I took that crew with me when I got to Fairfax, and then when I got to Fairfax, I got into 29C. And then so when J-Rock and Air got to Fairfax, I put them on 29C. But then not a year later, Retna shows up at our school, and he basically jacks all my crewmates and puts them all in a KOG
Okay.
without me knowing. You know what I mean? Well, like, kind of, because I'm in the magnet program. At Fairfax High, I had a visual arts magnet program, and I applied, and I was able to get into that. And all those homies were not in that. So, you know, I was kind of resentful and butthurt about it a little bit. But then one day they were having a meeting after school, and J-Rock and Air were like, "What's up? We're going to go hang out with these fools. Like, come with us." And I'm like, "I don't know. You guys are going to have a meeting. I'm not going to go with you."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Just wait right here. We're going to have a meeting, and then we'll all go kick it." And I'm like, "All right, fuck it." And then so at some point during the meeting, J-Rock and Air call me over, and they're like, "Hey, you put us in your crew. We've always been family. We've always been from the same crew. You got to get in a KOG. It's just the new name for the same crew. It's just all the same people anyway, you know?" So they decided to put me on. And so that was like 96. And within a year, I get an LTS also, because they're pretty much the same crew. Only KOG at the time was started to kind of recruit people into LTS. And so that had been my crew basically my whole life, man, from when I was like 16 years old until just recently. I felt, unfortunately, I felt the need. I had to step away from the crew a little bit.
Okay.
I love those guys. I still have nothing but respect for them, and I have no bad things to say about them. Only I just think, as far as like the direction they're taking with certain standards with certain people, as far as holding them accountable for certain things at certain times, I don't necessarily agree with the way they do that sometimes. Now that I'm a family man, now that I'm married, I feel like I have to hold myself to a higher standard, because I'm representing a whole new group of people, my whole family. And I feel, if they're not willing to hold people accountable in the same way I would, then maybe it's time for me, instead of me saying, "Oh fuck, you know, you guys are all fucking up, I'm gonna step away
and do your own thing,
do my thing for a little while."
Okay.
You know,
in the early stages of LTS, right?
Yeah.
You had like Mark 7, right?
Yeah, OG Mark 7, man.
Sinner. How was it meeting those guys for the first time at that time, though?
Man, so I think Create, Mark 7, and Sinner are the three like foundation members for me, as far as like the OGs that are still around and have been holding it down and created that crew and brought it to the level it was. And definitely, I still hold them at such a high level of reverence and respect that I'm still, you know, it's weird. It's not really starstruck, but you go and hang with these fools, and you're like, damn, this was such an OG. You hold them at such a high level of respect. They're definitely up there with the guys that I respect the most in the history of graffiti. Yeah,
because you guys have definitely put a mark on LTS, right? I've seen what LTS can do and what is it about, and shout out to the whole LTS crew.
Yeah, I feel really lucky to have been a part of that group for so long. LTS and KOG, I think, are some of my favorite graffiti writers. Obviously, I'm somewhat biased because they're my friends too.
Yeah.
But from a non-bias, from a step back and look at certain writers and the way they do shit, I love the way they've been doing shit for a long time.
You know, what do you think separates the LTS crew from the rest of the crews out here in LA?
So I think there was like LTS and KOG has always been a little bit more ragtag. It's been multi-ethnic, it's been multi-style, it's been like punk rocker, it's goth, raver, cyberpunk. Like, it's very not homogenous in the type of people that are as far as like what part of town they're from or what they're into. It's more of like a respect and style and like an influence of style that I think that brings that crew together in a way. And
okay.
I think they're different in that they were not, early on, they were very much not afraid to experiment with using buff, with different styles, non-traditional stuff. I feel like a lot of the crews in LA for a long time had a very more traditional LA looking style, and I think LTS helped to morph and change what an LA style looks like.
Okay.
It made it a little more crazy, more advanced, more psychedelic.
Gotcha. I want to get your perspective on this, brother. So they say from the beginning of Graph to, like, you could say 2000, it was like its own realm, right? But they say that when the 2000 writers came in, like the early 2000s, it was like a shift point because they just brought so much creativity, innovation, taking stuff to the next level. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it had like the end of the 90s, Air One, Zest, Revoke, GK, Saber, those guys really pushed the level and quality of illegal graffiti.
Yeah.
And I think they kind of planted the seed for the early 2000s writers, Rask, Paisa, Future, Deese, Acel, guys that were coming up at the time to really push both their letter style, the spot selection, and just the really elevated, I think, the whole global graffiti game. I think the illegal graffiti in LA got so good, and people would come to town and be so impressed with how difficult the spots were to get and how advanced the styles in these spots were, that it really just, it elevated the whole world style in a way. I think it was very influential.
Yeah, I agree, bro. I know definitely it was a big different, shifting point when they had the run. And many people say that. And in my opinion, I agree. If you had to give me your top 5, brother, who would you give it to? Your top 5?
Wow, that's a hard one.
Let's say your generation. If you go your generation.
So
top
dudes,
five.
okay, so dudes that are my age-ish and that have painted around the same time as me, there's Dry Dr. I,
Okay.
He's an old school KOGLTS guy. He's still making fine art. I love his style. He was very innovative and very creative. I think Jabber, even though he's not from LA,
Okay.
I knew of his work. He's such a hard-working dude, and he's been so consistent from the 90s until now.
That Foxy paints, man, you can't go nowhere without seeing it.
Dude is active. Dude is active like
Yeah.
a motherfucker, and I really respect his level of activity as well as his style. Fuck, man. So a little bit older than me, I think Sinner.
Okay. Shout out Sinner.
Shout out Sinner, man. He was so innovative.
I just
and
seen
so
him not so
creative.
long ago. It was crazy.
I love his work. And then like maybe some of the younger cats, or at least slightly younger than me, Paisa.
Okay.
My homie Paisa, I love his style. I love how he also went through so many stages of creativity, really flipping and evolving his shit over the years. It never got boring. And then Tank, the homie Tank, right now I think is really doing beautiful, amazing murals and doing really hardcore graffiti and really amazing spots. And he's got a really nice balance of being able to render very beautifully
Yeah.
and do really banging ass spots.
I want to take the time to give Tank a shout out. He's from my side of town, and it was a huge inspiration to me. Huge, bro. Him, Evac, Punch, all the NBCs, the GBCs, with the early GBCs.
Shout out to Punch. For sure.
And when I got to meet him, bro, he was just so humble to me, bro. Like, he was a very nice dude to me. And I had respect for him for that, because he could have just been like, hey, bro, what the fuck, get away from me, you know what I mean?
He has a wonderful attitude,
Yeah.
dude. Honestly,
And that's what I
he's
love
got a
about
great
him.
work ethic, and he's a family man,
Yeah.
he's healthy. I got nothing but good things for say.
Yeah.
He's got his mindset in a really positive way, so I got a lot of respect for him and all the NBC guys. I didn't meet them. They're a few years younger than me,
Okay.
so I didn't meet them until a few years later, but they all made a really good impression on me. You know?
Shout out to the whole NBC crew, man. Them guys are they're really doing their thing. You mentioned something right now that I felt like was a very powerful statement. When you mentioned Paisa, his style never got boring.
That's hard to do.
I wanted to get into that, because that is really hard to do. Because many people that are not in the culture, they see someone that knows how to paint, and they kind of see it like, he's just a tagger.
Right.
But bro, you gotta go through so much. Aside of the hate in the street, like, you gotta learn how to get some can control, right?
Yeah.
You gotta know how to maneuver the can, because the can, many guys would just go like this, but there's just so much more you could do with the can, right?
Yeah.
So, can we get into a style not being boring?
So I think one of his strong points is he has a really good foundation. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people try to run before they walk, and they try to add all these additions to the letters and like put this arrow and this big heavy 3D and all this shit that kind of takes your attention away from the actual letters and the structure that's happening. And he's always been very sound in his way of viewing his letters. So he could add all that shit, but even without all this shit, his shit's got a nice flow. There's a balance. The letters are all interacting with each other in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
The thicknesses and the thinnesses all have a very logical kind of flow to them. So he's a very meticulous and studious graffiti writer.
Okay.
And so it shows when you see his shit. And you could see the evolution in his style and how he's grown. And sometimes he's like, now he's simplifying it, but it's a very beautiful still rendering, his style. The weights of his letters were really nice. So.
100%. For those out there that might not understand what makes sense is, I just kind of want to simplify it. So like, making sense is like, if you have a letter, if you have a name with 4 words, let's say for example the name is Dad, and this one has an arrow going that way, and then this one has an arrow going this way. It doesn't make no sense because, you know what I mean? Like, where's it going?
Yeah, balance.
Yeah.
And the weight of the letters compared to each other. Yeah.
So for those that might be wondering, like, when they say balance, what are they talking about? Going like this? No, it got to make sense, bro. It got to flow.
Yeah, it can't be too heavy on one side because then it looks like it's falling over, right? So it's got to look like they're either all leaning on each other or they're standing together, because letters almost act like characters.
Yeah.
And so each letter has to have its own kind of like personality, and the personalities have to interact with each other.
Yeah.
And if you do it right, then it looks like a very beautiful interaction of shapes and forms. And if you do it wrong, then it just looks like a mess.
Definitely. 2024, bro, I think we're experiencing some amazing innovation, right? Have you seen these guys that are hanging from the roof like ninjas and just shh?
I love it. The first time I seen it, I remember Ozzy hit the thing on the 405, and I think he got on it by rappelling on it, and then Cub a few years later hit it again. And then I kind of disappeared for a while. And then I think, I'm not sure, but I think it might be Brazilian writers and the FISHE that brought it kind of back into popularity. Because I don't know if in Sao Paulo, they do the whole sides of buildings. They do a lot of shit without ropes. Those guys are really intense. Those guys are the real fucking daredevil graffiti writers. But I think they also started the rope stuff. Yeah, and the hanging on the ropes is just another step in evolution in the whole process of like graffiti advancing. I haven't done it myself. It looks like a lot of work, but I've seen people do it very effectively and quite beautifully, and I like it. Like, I think the first time I saw it, I think was in Oakland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think it was Elms.
Okay.
Yeah, but then right away, I feel like lots of dudes started, jumping on it, and I think there's a dude from New York that's doing it. His Zwon, I think. I don't know how to say it.
Okay.
He's doing it in a really creative way.
I seen that chick doing it, bro. She writes Reds. I think she's from Miami.
Oh, yeah, from Miami.
And she's doing it now.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, that's crazy. So, like, now I think, like, what's next? If they're already hanging from roofs, like, innovation is amazing, though, right? That's why I say 2024, we're witnessing some great innovation, because I'm just happy to see what's next.
Me too. I actually love to see people pushing the boundaries and seeing where else you could do it and making it harder, man. It makes it harder for everybody else. Like, oh shit, now I got to figure out how to do that too. Yeah. That's great. That's great, because I think people like rest on the laurel sometimes, and that's when the art stops evolving. And I think when you see somebody like pushing it really forward and doing some outside the box shit, where you're like, fuck, now I got to push myself to do something new and innovative and creative.
In 2024, bro, in your personal opinion, where is the state of graffiti at right now?
So I think there's more people doing it both in LA and all over the world than ever, which is going to create a nest for really beautiful art to blossom from. However, it also creates a real mess.
Okay.
I feel like when I used to go out, I used to get really excited about looking at graffiti because there was a chance I'd catch a beautiful piece by a beautiful artist. Now I go out and I see a lot of graffiti, and it's like 1 out of 3 or 4 times that I see shit where I'm like, oh, wow, today I saw a good one. And that kind of sucks.
I see what you're saying.
I feel like a lot of the new jacks aren't really pushing themselves. They just want to get up and make a name. But I think making a name so like I was saying earlier, I really respect the guys that go out and get up and do illegal, but you have to do something fresh. You can't just go out and bomb. If you go out and do a bunch of ugly shit, like, you're still kind of a toy.
Okay.
And you got to start by being a toy before you evolve into something better. But there's people that are just content doing ugly shit year after year. There's some dudes, I'm not going to name names, but I've seen their years and their shit not evolve at all, or evolve very little.
Yeah.
And it's like, why are you still doing it if you're going to do the same ass ugly shit?
Yeah.
You haven't even figured out how to do a straight letter right. Your shit looks all wacky.
I hear you 100%. Brother, have videos ever been important to you?
So in the 90s, there was a New York series called Videograph. It was called
Videograph. There we go.
Yeah. Nick B, I think, was one of the guys.
Yeah.
And that really exposed me to a lot of artists and writers and mentality that I hadn't seen. So very much because I didn't have mentors out here, those videos had a big influence on me, the early stuff. Also, Graffiti Verte was the first time I think I saw some West Coast graffiti, like documentary type shit. I I don't keep up with a lot of the new ones. I know there was a lot of really interesting series that come out of Europe and a lot of train bombing videos and a lot of stuff. So if I see somebody has it, I'll watch it.
Okay.
You know, but I'm not as interested in it necessarily as I would have been younger in my career.
I got
and
you.
I think part of it has to do with like almost like social media makes it so accessible anyway that the video has lost maybe the power it used to have when there wasn't so much access. Like before, the video was like one step up from the Graffiti magazine. You know,
I see what you're saying.
and I feel like
actually,
even now the Graffiti magazine isn't as important because it's like you look through one and like, oh yeah, I saw all this already on Instagram. Not all of them, obviously. Some really do a special job of getting unique work in there, and some are just such quality magazines that worth getting. Even if I've seen the work, like I want that.
For me,
know?
bro, something that I want to see is like, as far as social media, the graffiti culture have its own platform. Like, I feel like right now everything's given to Instagram, and Instagram is not really appreciating it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel Instagram does enough to appreciate the graffiti culture on their platform, right?
I feel that.
So I feel like it would be a very powerful statement to move the graffiti culture from Instagram to something that belongs to the culture, right?
I mean, I think there's been like mini versions of that. I feel like 50 millimeter kind of was before Instagram, the platform, like kind of at least for West Coast and LA Graffiti. I think also there was a few other ones, Pure Graffiti back in the day when the forums were a thing. And I like, they kind of died. And I don't know what, and it was Instagram and maybe Flickr and MySpace that kind of took the importance away from them. I think that's a really cool idea of making just graffiti specific platforms.
Yeah, because imagine you want to connect with a writer, you could connect there. You could everything graffiti related, not so much like.
I think though that also the problematic aspect of that is there might be some gatekeeping. The people running it might be like, "Oh, fuck these fools. We're gonna block all you fools. None of your crews allowed here." You know, so if it's not ran by somebody who's very unbiased and open, so somebody that's kind of maybe not like in the culture, but not like totally in the culture. You know,
he's not gonna pick sides.
Exactly.
Like this guy could have 20 photos, but you can only have one.
Right. Exactly. And that I feel like there's so much politics and hate and love. I'm just bias that's unintentional. Like, oh, I really like this guy, so I'm going to let him put all this shit, you know?
Definitely, 100%. You being a writer, bro, before the internet, right?
Yeah.
Can you share with us what it felt to be there without the internet till now having the internet?
So it felt more precious, man. It felt like, you know, when you catch a shooting star, it's like, oh, did you see that? Oh, I didn't see it. Oh, fuck, I just saw it. So it's same shit like, oh, you didn't see that spot that this fool did on that? Oh, it's buff now. Oh, I saw it. It was dope. You know, it felt very special. Graffiti felt like this very, it was related to time a lot more. Like if you weren't there during that time era when this guy was bombing, if you weren't there in the time when like this part of the freeway stopped being buff for a month, then you kind of missed it.
Yeah.
And now it's both good that there's an archive and you could actually see like, oh man, you are credible. You did do 20 years of shit, right? But it loses its magic sometimes with the immediacy that you used to have when you'd see it. And it's like, oh, wow, look at this billboard. It's like if you saw it 10 times on Instagram before you see it in person, it's like, oh, that's where it is. I already saw it. Already, the feeling, the impression of like, wow, isn't there?
I found it.
Right. It's like, oh, cool. There it is. You know, so it's a double-ended sword. Now, but now everybody in all the world, like writers in Portugal and Mexico, wherever, they're going to see your shit. Right? So there's the access, but then the feeling of seeing it in person kind of is a little lost.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, it has definitely done good and bad. You know, sometimes I get struck, bro, by seeing the graffiti culture like in other places like Mexico, you know, Germany, all those other places that they're going ham, bro.
Yeah.
100% they're going ham. They're doing full on, you know, productions, right?
Yeah.
Do you keep your eye out on that?
I mean, so I feel very grateful. I actually get to travel to a lot of places and link with writers in other towns and see other shit. And I think it's amazing, like, when you go to Europe, the train bombing, the subway bombing, like, we don't have that in LA anyway. And so when you see it in person, you're at the subway station or you're just waiting at the train station and you see a big-ass whole car, it's fucking dope. It feels dope. You're like, damn, these fools are killing it.
Yeah,
you know?
y'all thought it was just New York. They got it down here, too.
Yeah, no, it's really hardcore in Europe. And then also in Mexico, man, it's definitely a different culture. So I feel like there's a lot more women involved.
Okay.
And although people at large don't accept graffiti, I think the art aspect of it is a lot more respected, and so it becomes integrated into a lot more things in the culture in a more authentic way that isn't so much about capitalizing.
Yeah.
I feel a lot of times out here when people accept graffiti, it's like, how can I make a buck? How can I sell a T-shirt with
feel
graffiti?
you, yeah.
You know, and I think in some other places it's a little bit more just about the love for the culture and the art. You know,
Gotcha.
let's just put out the art.
100%.
You know.
How is that feeling, bro? Being able to travel and then connecting with these writers, like, and being accepted by them. Is that a good feeling for you?
I'm super grateful, man. I'm super grateful that I was around in a time kind of before the internet. So as the internet came up, I was already kind of a personality, a name within the culture, the scene, and I'd already had connections with writers in other places. So it helps to kind of strengthen things, and it helps connect shit. Like sometimes I'll be going into a town where I don't know anybody, and I'll hit somebody up like, "Hey, fool, you know anybody in fucking wherever, fucking this town in Canada or something?" Like, yeah, let me link you up with my boy.
Okay.
So it creates cool opportunities.
Gotcha.
You know,
what's one of the places that you landed for graffiti that you're kind of like, whoa, it's a memorial moment?
Wow. You know, I feel like. So Mexico City, obviously, I'm very biased toward it. I love that place. It's one of my favorite places on earth. But a few years ago, I mean, there's still crushed. It's still beautiful pieces all over, still bombing. But a few years ago, I think just before and after the pandemic, they kind of stopped buffing. And it became what I think one of the most beautiful fucking cities. You know what I mean? And actually, I was just recently in Marseille in France, in the south of France. It's like a
oh, you were in France?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Last summer with my wife. Man, it's preserved. The architecture is like this really old school, beautiful, probably like 500-year-old or more architecture, but everything is crushed. The fronts of buildings, rooftop, shit's fucking done top to fucking bottom, like straight graph bombing, like not beautiful pieces, like bombed up.
Oh wow!
And the mixture of this like old school ass beautiful architecture, so crushed. It was amazing. Me and my girl were like, "Oh my god, look at this town! It's like the most beautiful place we've been. It is fucking sick." So I think places like that manage to retain the tradition, and then they get bombed, but people don't hate the graffiti there. They're like, they just accept it as part of the new look of the city. It's sick. It's beautiful.
You know, bro, for me, I believe it's extremely important as an adult to have someone to back you up and support you when it comes to this culture, because there's many out there that don't understand it, right? And to them it'll be like, oh, well, you got to give that up to be with me type thing. You know what I mean? How significant is it to you to have a partner, a life partner, someone you really love, support what you love before you possibly met them?
Yeah, I'm super grateful. You know, I've been doing graffiti since I was fucking 12 years old.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of my girlfriends along the way haven't liked it.
Yeah.
My wife, my partner, was doing some illegal stuff in the graffiti world before I met her.
Okay.
And so she very much understands it from a first-hand perspective.
Okay.
So when we met each other and she saw what I was doing and the level I was doing it, and she totally understood it and had a reverence and respect for it, where she's only going to keep supporting it and keep having my back. Having her support me is probably the best feeling, because she gets it, she respects it, she understands it from a first-hand perspective and loves that I do it and gives me 100%. Like, having that is fucking so important. Like, it helps me keep doing it. It would be so difficult if I didn't have her.
Yeah, and there's some guys that really go through that out there, and I shout out to them that they have to hide it from the wife, right? They got to hide it from the kids, and you got to tell the wife, hey, I'm going to go with the buddies today to the bar, but in reality, you're out there all night going ham, you know? So, you know, shout out to her, man. Shout out to your wife for supporting you and being there for you. It's an amazing thing, and I hope that many other wives out there could do the same.
Yeah, you know what? To any women watching this, if you don't already love and respect what your man's doing them, don't waste his time. Like, you're a red flag. Like, leave his ass alone.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not about him 100%, like, if you don't already love what he does and doing his shit, just go find another dude, like a square like you.
Go find yourself some guy that's just going to go to work, back home, and that's it.
Yeah, that's what you want, right? Like, you want somebody boring? Go find somebody boring. Graffiti writers are creative people that have a lot of dynamic fucking personalities. And if you're not already about it and you're not about that person, just leave them alone. Don't waste their life, you know?
Stay away from me.
Yeah, stay away from graffiti writers. If you don't love a graffiti writer, if you don't love graffiti and you're a girl, don't fuck around with a graffiti writer. You're going to ruin his life.
Let me ask you this, brother. If there's anything that you could change about the graffiti culture today in 2024, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me think a second. You know, I think It's not a problem with the graffiti culture now. I think in general, graffiti writers just think they're so fucking important.
Yeah.
They think what they do is so cool, and they think their shit don't stink. And it's like a lot of us got to just be realistic and realize we're just writing on walls. What we do is not that important. It's cool. We can, give ourselves a pat on the back.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice job. You're working hard. Your work is beautiful. That's fine. But keep shit in perspective, man. Some of these fools act like they're the coolest motherfuckers and like
the president's here.
the fucking president over here. And it's like, man, like you don't do it. Like all you do is tag on shit, bro.
Yeah.
Like you're not that cool. Like, so keeping yourself in check, keeping humble, keeping perspective of what you do. Like, sure, man, we're part of an amazing culture. Graffiti art is beautiful. We contribute a lot to the urban texture. But at the same time, it's just we're one side of things. We're not curing cancer. We're not fucking saving the world. We're just artists. So keep it in perspective. Don't let your ego get out of control.
Okay. I got 2 questions for you before we get out of here, brother. One, what would you tell that individual that's trying to get into graffiti today in 2024?
So if you haven't done graffiti and you're just about to start, it's very important, I think, to learn the history and the rules and the hierarchy of things before jumping into the culture. Just like if you're a surfer, you're not going to go to a beach you haven't been to and try and hop on a wave. They're going to fuck you up, right?
Yeah.
So learn about where you're at, where you're standing. If you're in a gang neighborhood, figure it out. Like kind of pay attention to what you're doing before you start doing it. And then I'd also say stay humble and keep working hard. If people start telling you you're great, you're probably still not that good. Don't stop progressing at that point. Because I know I've seen a lot of writers. They get their first props like, oh, you're fresh. I'm going to keep this piece forever. I'm not going to evolve from this. I'm fresh already. And so I think compliments should be given, but also not too much. Don't blow smoke or don't believe them too much, because that's going to inhibit you from growing and challenging yourself and wanting to evolve.
It puts you in a comfort.
It puts you in your comfort zone. I'm fresh already. I could just stay like this. Like, oh, fuck that. You're not fresh, dude.
Okay.
You still got a long way to go. Keep pushing your style. Never stop evolving. Never think you're as good as you are. Always think, fuck, these guys are better than me, so that you can keep striving to better yourself.
Every day you can get better.
Every day you can get better.
And life and anything in general, right? You just gotta keep putting in the work. Last question I got for you, brother. Favorite sneaker you like to rock while you're painting?
Oh, man, that's so funny, because there's a few writers out there that were the old man crew. And we just call us jokingly like Clown, my homie Clown, Gas from West Coast. We wear New Balances because they're comfortable as fuck, man. I don't care about impressing anybody with my fresh shoes if I'm painting a spot. I don't want my feet to hurt. So
hey, New Balance, I need you to come sponsor my homie Fish right here.
Yeah.
Send him some pairs.
That's what's up. I could take some New Balances for sure.
What kind of New Balance?
So I used to rock the 574s, which was kind of like the retro. But now I just... I try on a bunch of different ones. I'm a lot more open, and I just see what's comfortable. I stand up. Sometimes I'll run around the store a little bit. So it's a lot of the running ones usually.
Have you ever had a situation, bro, where you accidentally take a brand new pair to paint and you come back and you're like, ah?
Yeah, spontaneous graffiti happens a lot of time, and you could like dress up like, oh, we're going to this nice affair, and then you see one of your homies there, and it's like, what's up? I got some paint in the train. You want to go fucking do some throw-ups in the alley? You're like, yeah, and then you come back inside, and fucking the girl's like, what happened to your shoe? And you're like, fuck, damn it. So unfortunately, spontaneous graffiti happens all the time. You got to sacrifice shoes. That's one of the things. If you're like really about it, you got to realize like you can try to keep your shoes as clean as. But they're going to get ink on them. If you're really about it, that's going to happen. So
it would be a good idea. Leave the new shoes at home and bring the old ones.
If you're going to paint, actually, I wear boots now to the yard.
Okay.
So I've changed now recently because I've been doing more trains and there's more shit in the yard that can puncture my fucking New Balances.
You're right.
I've recently changed to like thicker soles because I got to protect my feet.
How did you get into the train movement?
Reluctantly. A lot of the homies just started painting a lot more trains and like, come on, fool, let's go. We're going. It's like, all right, fuck it, let's go.
What do you say to the guy out there that be like, oh, he's not a real writer because he just paints trains?
I used to feel that way.
Yeah?
I used to feel that way. I definitely respect dudes that are doing spots that are like billboards, rooftops, freeways, a little bit more. There's more danger, more risk. So the props are a little higher.
Yeah.
But you can get ran over by a train. You can get stabbed by a bum.
Yeah.
Like, train yards are not safe either. You know what I mean? And putting a lot of graffiti out, you're always liable to get caught. So I respect the train guys too. I think it should just be one facet though of what you do.
Okay.
I know some guys are really happy. Like, I got 1 million trains this year. I'm the most uppest train rider of the year. Oh, that's cool. I give you props, pat on the back for sure. I'm not taking anything away from you. Personally, I like doing more than one kind of style. I like throw-ups. I like tags. I like pieces. I think it's, for my personal criteria, what I expect from myself, I like to be broad in what I do. So trains is just like another card in your arsenal of fucking, tools.
Can you share just one experience of something that was kind of like out of the world, being at a train yard?
Man, so we've had some shitty experiences at train yards. One time, long time ago, there's a downtown train yard that's pretty active now, but it used to be covered by, the whole area was just projects before. Federal housing.
Okay.
And so you used to have federal housing police. So you could go in and paint that yard, but you get fucked with the feds sometimes, you know? And on one occasion, we were down there, we were painting some shit, and I don't want to name names, but there was a lot of well-known riders from well-known crews, CBS, LTS, etc. And we were all painting, and 2 of them went out, and they're like, yo, there's cops out there, it's fucking hot. You know, and we tried to formulate a plan how we're going to get out, and there was a bunch of us, a ton of different riders. We all went different ways, we all got pinched. There was fucking like 30 cop cars out there, you know what I mean? And they sat there and they humiliated us for a while. They like took pictures of like, like they got each of us to hold everybody's cans. Yeah. So we were each like holding like 100 cans, and then they take Polaroids and they said, "Oh, I need one too." And then here's another. You want one too? Oh, here, hold on, Bob Marley. I had dreads at the time, so fucking cops were like, "What's up, Bob Marley? You think you're fucking out here, fucking being Rasta?" And we had to take the humiliation for like a couple hours. But afterwards, they're like, yeah, we're not going to fucking arrest you. We don't give a fuck about you. We're after the gangs. We just were bored. Yeah. They literally told us that shit. Y'all got to go home. Just get the fuck out of here. But one of the homies was underage at the time. He got in trouble. That sucked.
Oh, man.
Yeah. It was a long time ago. We were kids, but...
Cops just felt like fucking...
They just fucked with us for hours, and then they're just like, get out of here, which was cool, you know, because we could all got in trouble, but they're like, whatever, we don't even care.
But you didn't have anybody, any homie or anything getting super paranoid, like, oh, bro, every day.
Some of the homies had some shit on them, and some of the people's cars had shit in them. So people were definitely shitting bricks, but at the end of the day, I think everybody got off okay, because I don't think procedurally it all was legal the way they did it either. Yeah. But yeah, it was, we weren't unhappy. And then my car was right there, and I had to pretend that we'd bounce and wait for hours to be able to go back to my car
and grab it
and get the fuck out of it. That was pretty shitty.
Man, brother, I just want to really thank you for stopping by the studio today.
Thank you for having me.
And giving me this great conversation. I'm highly appreciated, bro. It was an honor to have you here. Make sure to follow Fish on Instagram. Make sure to head over to gotnocontrol.com. Grab yourself some merchandise. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It's free. Don't cost nothing. I appreciate all of you guys. Till next time. And we're out. Peace.